Hey, Beyond the Tags, you're live on the air. Can you hear me, brother?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Welcome, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. So, well, first though, I don't feel like debating. I think that's the dumbest thing, and we don't need any more of it. So,
I'm more interested in discussion than debate, man. So you and I are on the same term there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to, oh, well, this fact says and this fact said. No, I'm not that guy. Screw the debate me, bro shit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, so I think me and you do agree at a pretty decent amount. Like, you know, the whole the ghost gun thing that Biden's trying to push right now, and it's just like, what does that have to do with anything? You know, and just the way this kind of like a lot of things have been shifting from, I don't know, it just feels really weird. Like they're trying to jump on the next thing that can get them better approval ratings, I guess you could say. And I mean, they jumped off the whole massage parlor shooting, and then they jumped to this. And even some people said, oh, the shooter's white, and then they found out he wasn't. And, you know, it is kind of like, I think that the 2A argument is being misrepresented by people who don't represent the 2A in an actual wholesome way, but are more interested on, you know, how many followers they get or how many clicks they get. And it's being disrupted by people who aren't actually out there every day and actually understand the 2A scene more, you know, just like how people say, oh, these politicians are too old. They don't know what this is anymore. And, you know, that whole argument. So I think that just in general, I think that a lot of people have a misconception about 2A and what it means.
I would tend to, and I'm going to make an analogy here that I think you'll probably follow me on. I think a lot of people on the left view 2A people the same way a lot of people on the right will look at like the meme social justice warrior type, right? They'll look at the crazy feminist with the purple hair that's screaming at some college, and then the people on the left will look at somebody who enjoys guns as like, you know, the 375-pound guy that's LARPing in, you know, body armor that doesn't fit him type of thing. And I think both positions have a more reasonable stance that the majority of people in that group actually fall in, and that to address solely the fringe loons on either side is just kind of a severe misrepresentation. I mean, it's not fair to either one. The problem I have with 2A right now is the people in office aren't allowing any serious addressing of concerns. So you have like the Ted Cruz's that won't consider anything, right? We can't touch anything related to guns. And then you have, you know, the progressive left, even though Biden's not really all that progressive, but you have the progressive left that's going after things that aren't going to address the problem, I would say. And I think you agree with me on both of those things. Yeah. So my goal would be to get people like you that seem more reasonable, and like myself that have some, you know, gun background and know some about firearms, right, to come to the table with things that would make sense. Because I think even you would agree with me that like a 10-round magazine limit with how quickly you can reload a magazine is pretty damn pointless. Thanks for the follow, Mariano.
Oh, yeah.
Is over.
Oh yeah, no, that's completely pointless.
So what would you be in favor of? What are some of your ideas related to this? Because like I told you when we were in chat, you know, I don't think more guns is an answer that's acceptable to me. I'm not saying like limit the amount of guns people can access, but you know, the teachers get to carry CCW or arming teachers. Those are not realistic solutions to me.
No, I don't, because I mean, the teacher steps away, you know, we all seen the movie clips, teacher steps away in the principal's office to talk about something and the whole classroom starts flipping desks. Well, what happens when she forgets the gun inside the desk? I don't agree with that. And I don't agree with putting more security guards at the school either. I'm so a little background information about me is I grew up in San Diego. I grew up with drive-bys. I grew up with gangs. I grew up with a school that had metal detector security guards, and there were still shootings. There were still stabbings. There was still violence on and off property. This is how I look at it. If there's a will, there's a way. Okay, and I think a lot of people understand that. And that's why I brought up the whole Japan thing. A guy went around and he stabbed 37 people pretty decently. I mean, we can all look back too, though, at the same sense that, the protests over in Hong Kong, the whole free Hong Kong thing, the police officer had a revolver pointed right at an innocent, unarmed civilian, So it's kind of a weird debate. It's kind of like, when we talk about, well, we should regulate the guns. But see, I'm in Kentucky. I know this by the phone number 855. You're fairly close to me.
No, the 855 number is just toll free, and it's based anywhere in the United States. I'm in Las Vegas. Okay. You and I kind of went opposite. So you started in San Diego and moved to, I'm betting, more rural Kentucky. I started in rural Louisiana with the one stoplight town. Okay. And then I've moved all over the country, but now I'm in Vegas. And I still travel all over the country for work. That's why this is only a Sunday show instead of an every night stream.
Yeah, no, yeah. The reason why I moved is just because I have been a victim of being broken into, assaulted. My last encounter in California was being jumped for a cigarette, right?
Nice.
I called the cops, nothing happened, obviously. Yeah. I've been put in handcuffs because I looked like a felon, right? And I'm white, so like everyone, so that's a whole another subject. But so I mean, the crime there, I went back a couple of years ago, and there's a triple homicide in my neighborhood. So, and it was just all gang members, right? Yeah. And so I do look at the point of a different perspective, right? That we do all these banning of guns or regulation, but what is it really going to do? I mean, criminals are still going to be able to get guns, right?
Well, it depends on, and see, this is where to play devil's advocate, because again, I'm not in favor of banning all guns, but when you look at somewhere like Australia or you look at somewhere like the United Kingdom where all guns have been banned, criminals don't get guns. I mean, their murder rate per capita is a hell of a lot lower than ours, So when you make that argument to somebody who is anti-gun, they go, well, you're wrong. And the data backs them up. Now, to take a tangent off something you touched on, I think there's a very real difference between the way somebody who, grew up in an urban setting, and their exposure to guns if they don't actually use them, but they're just exposed to them, views them. They're gang related, they're criminal, they're those sorts of things. Whereas when you live in a rural area, I mean, if you mention guns to me, the first thing I think of is, like a bunch of buddies out on, a couple acres of land shooting at beer cans or hunting or, hey, the police ain't going to get here for a half an hour, even if I call them. So I do need something at the house for self-defense. There has to be some kind of way to bridge that divide. I don't know whether it's regulate guns more stringently at local levels. I don't know whether it's universal background checks across the board. I don't know whether it's licensing. But like I said, just throw up my hands and do nothing isn't an acceptable solution for me. And it's not an acceptable solution for a large part of the country at this point.
So let me touch on this real quick. So you mentioned Australia.
Yeah.
And I say this about even the free healthcare debate. That's fine that free healthcare in Canada works great. That's good for them. But something that may work in one country, and you seem like a pretty smart person, right? I don't really need to tell you this, that if it works in one country, it may not work in another one, Okay. And so, I mean, they still have guns over there. It's really regulated. But let's kind of take an opposite flip from that and look at Switzerland.
Okay.
I mean, Switzerland, they're raised. Every family household has a gun, and they work on rehabilitation, which I think is one part of this violence that we have in America. Rehabilitation, I think, is a huge thing that we need to actually push instead of locking people up and making them go back to crime.
No, I agree with you there. I agree. I think the prisons need to be more rehabilitative instead of punitive. More, let's solve the problem and give them tools when they get out so they can actually, not have to go back to crime instead of just punish people.
Exactly. I mean, because we talk about a lot of these shootings, and I think a lot of us here know that we could just talk about the gangs, right? I mean, that's pretty easy. Well, criminals get guns, blah, 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 blah. And that's easy, like we can't ban criminals, right? Sadly, we kind of create them, by putting them in the system. But I think what we're really talking about is the actual legal aspect of it, the actual people who want to own a gun to protect their family, and they want to do it correctly. And I think that, and like I said before, I think the media has thrown this really weird spin on it, right? I mean, because there's a lot of ways to help reduce these mass shootings. I mean, let's just take the grocery store one. Right now in Boulder, Colorado, right?
Yeah.
His sister found him playing with a gun a couple of days prior.
Yeah. And if I recall, he bought it like a month before or something.
Yeah. No, he bought it a week, and then a couple of days later, he was playing with it. And why? If the sister knew he had a mental illness, why didn't she report it? Does that have to do with any gun ban? No,
I don't know, brother.
I mean, that is.
I mean that.
Yeah, I mean, and so that's what I mean.
That's almost an argument for a more intensive background check, though. But at the same token, I mean, I would be opposed to them like calling friends and family, you know, to say, "Hey, is your brother Looney Tunes?" Because he's trying to buy an AR, and.
Well, it should be the family's responsibility to take that away from him, knowing that he is a Looney Tune.
Maybe so, but the fact that they didn't, and how many other people had to die because they dropped the ball.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There's got to be some kind of solution here that's not just outright ban all guns. You know, I mean, maybe a waiting period. Maybe if we made everybody wait 2 weeks or a month, because I don't know about you, but when I go out and, you know, start looking for a new gun, it's not like I'm just going to walk in and buy the first thing I see. I usually research it to death, you know, so if I had to wait an extra 2 weeks, it wouldn't have been the end of the world for me, you know, but I'm just spitballing here. I just know that even when we look at like okay, you and I agree on rehabilitative justice instead of punitive, that's all well and good. But a lot of these mass shootings, I mean, these guys aren't guys that are coming in and out of jail constantly. You know, Columbine wasn't kids that had been locked up for 5-10 years. You know, the Vegas guy, if I remember correctly, was just a blue collar guy or a middle-aged guy that just snapped. You know, I mean, a lot of these things, it seems like, I mean, hell, do we require mental health checks before you can go, you know, buy a firearm again?
Well, I do have a solution. All right. So I'm all about 2A. Okay. I am, you know, I am probably the most 2A person you could probably meet. In fact, I'll send you a message after we're done talking. So if you are actually a person who actually does the 2A thing and talk about, like, if your like whole platform is about 2A and this and that, but you're talking about your friend in Las Vegas, I definitely want to talk to you more about this, because I do have one. Now, when I say I'm very 2A, what I do have an idea is kind of goes against a lot of people's 2A arguments, right? So
yeah, fire away, because
there has to be a system.
I'm there with you. I mean, like I said, I'm fine with individuals owning guns, but I think a lot of people are, you know, like scared of being ostracized from their community, or, you know, just speaking up on the issue and have no clue what they're talking about. But I think both you and I recognize that this is a problem, like mass shootings specifically, right? And there's got to be something that we can do, even if it's just spitballing ideas at this point.
So my idea kind of does infringe on the rights. Not ideal. And I say this as in, if we are at this moment that the government thinks they need to ban it with the new assault weapon ban. I don't know if you saw that. It was really disgusting. It's like every gun and pistols, and it's disgusting.
And that's what I'm afraid of, is that there's going to be an overreaction.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think me and you are on the same prediction on that. And so if the government is going to try to take all of our guns, I believe that we can have some compromise in the sense of this program that I've been thinking about for a while. So what the program is this. All right. So I go to an office and I'm like, all right, I'm 18, I'm a U.S. citizen. Here's my name. Here's my social. And here's all my bank statements from the last year. All right. And they run your name. It's about a 2-week period.
Okay.
And they run your name through all courts. They run your name through just everything, DMV, child support. If your ex just took your kids, if you just lost your property, if your job just fired you.
Yeah,
right?
Looking for triggers.
And then when that does, looking for triggers. I mean, when most of them, look at the massage parlor. He got kicked out of his house. Now, that probably wouldn't show up. And that's kind of like why I'm against universal background checks, because it's the same system. You just wait longer, and, well, that's another story. But, you know, so this will be an initial, who are you, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of infringement, right, on who you are. But then again, everyone talks about, all my information, you can't have it, but yet you just put everything on Facebook, idiot. So your
and
information's
not to mention, you're already
like,
going to be doing that to register a car in a lot of cases, or, you know, vote. So
exactly.
I mean, at some point, the I can't be on any list thing just loses its, sway on me at all. I mean, like you said, Facebook, like the guys that were thinking, that, Bill Gates was injecting microchips with viruses. I mean, you carry around a cell phone. Shut up.
Yeah, I mean, and so what this does is puts you on a notification list, right? Where if you have a court date, it sends a ping, right, to a person who may mandate it, right, in their area, whatever, sends a ping to them saying, he lost his job, no more, because, you send your taxes in, and if there's no more tax being received, it might set a red flag. And you might be like, oh, okay, so this guy just lost his job. I wonder what happened. And so they can kind of like look into it a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
But you kind of do the system. Now, with this system, you don't register what guns you buy, right? I don't believe the government should know how many guns you have, because that's our right. And they don't need to know, because that's a big thing about the 2A advocacy, is that the government shouldn't know how many guns they have, but just know that they can have guns. What ends up happening is after you go ahead.
I think you might be onto something there. I would be fine without knowing the individual firearms, like, how many they have. I do think, so for an initial application, maybe you could do like different classes of firearms that you would be okay with. Cause like, I don't care if a guy has a hunting rifle nearly as much as I care if, he goes out and starts loading up on ARs, right? I don't care if a guy has, one shotgun for home defense nearly as much as I care about, him going out and loading up on, semi-automatic pistols. These are different classes of weapons. Yeah. Now, I don't need to know how many ARs a guy owns, right? I could care less about that. But if you want to go switch from a hunting rifle to all of a sudden, like you said, you had a trigger event happen and you want to go start buying multiple ARs. If a guy buys one hunting rifle and then wants to buy another one 3-4 years later and another one 3-4 years later, or however many, I don't need to do a background check on him every time, in my opinion. But if he suddenly switches from a single home defense shotgun to, I want to buy 6 ARs and 50, different magazines and a couple of backup pistols and all this kind of stuff, I think that he should be reevaluated at that point.
Well, yeah, and that's and that's exactly kind of where this goes, is that, so after you do the initial 2 weeks, right? I mean, they look at just, have you been 5150'd? Have you been arrested for assault? Stuff like that. Because a lot of people say, oh, wife beaters shouldn't have guns. Well, they don't. I mean, you're in the military. If you have a charge of domestic violence, you can't have a gun.
Yeah, in theory, they don't.
Like the media, I mean, that's where the whole media kind of isn't helping the situation. But so after the 2 weeks period, so I do this whole thing, and they're like, hey, this guy's good to go. So now I can go apply for my gun. I can go pick it up. I can, boom, boom, boom. Now, what's kind of interesting about this is that you actually get a membership, okay? And you will have a membership of a card that you would use. So every time, you go get a gun, you can show them this membership. Now, it doesn't show up any transactions, but you kind of run this card, and they can run actually who you are, send a ping, whether it's like a 2 days or, whatever waiting period. I don't think anyone's really caring about the waiting period, to be honest. I don't think that we're all going to complain like, oh, our rights are being infringed, but I have to wait 2 days. You can wait, bro. Like, I don't know about you guys. I have to save up to buy a gun anyways,
Exactly, and that's what I was saying.
Cash,
I do research on what I'm going to buy in the first place. And give me just a second. Assault Waffle, majorly against weapon type registry. If bans ever happen, that's a literal confiscation list. I think that's why both myself and BeyondtheTags are against like how many guns you own type list. So if you switch, if you switch classes and you buy one AR, that's fine, but I don't need to know that you buy 5, 10, 15 more, right? So I could see how it could be a list, but they're not going to know whether you have 5 or whether you have 50, because neither me nor BeyondtheTags seem in favor of, keeping a list of the number of guns that an individual owns.
And like I said, with that, I mean, and that's what I'm looking at Assault Waffle is that, and that's what I mean. Like, so if I want to get a pistol with this membership, if I want to get a pistol, I have to take a class, a basic safety class that a registered place will go. I'll take my card after I complete the training, and they say, okay, he's trained on pistols. All right. So now they know, okay, this guy knows he's not going to just shoot himself in the foot like that Chicago cop. That was actually hilarious. But, And then, if you want to go into ARs, well, you have to do a class on ARs.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives them some time to see, hey, does this guy still have a job? And they'll just ping you when you move up, or if you buy 5,000 rounds.
Well, and it would also...
Let's just kind of look at this guy real quick.
If we made the class somewhat in depth, because like if you take, when you take a teenager and they're taking driving classes, right? I mean, this is over a period of time if you're switching. So if we're looking at making somebody take classes for, switching classes of weapons, that would give somebody a chance that knows firearms to at least get to know this person that's all of a sudden trying to buy a bunch of ARs.
Exactly.
Exactly. And say, hey, maybe somebody shouldn't let this guy have ARs and raise, a point of contention. And we already have a lot of people in the firearms community that I know that are good people that have some common sense and know, firearm safety and everything else that would look at some of these people and go, you shouldn't have a weapon. And that's what should happen. There needs to be some kind of screening process, but I'm fine without it being a government list of every single gun you own.
Yeah, I mean, to look at the Boulder, Colorado. I mean, that guy had a mental snap within the same week.
Uh-huh.
What if he had to come back 3 days later and get his gun? I mean, I don't think it'd be mentally stable to probably pick it up.
Well, and what if he had to come back 3 days later? Yeah, and what if he had to come back 3 days later to get his gun, and then it had to be, he had to go to the range, and it had to be locked there for another, 3 days, 4 days, whatever it was, while he took some classes to learn basic operation of said gun, right? And you had a firearms instructor that was looking at this guy for, 30 minutes, an hour every day, whatever it would be. I don't want to make it prohibitive, right? And then, okay, this, I agree with you. I mean, you're putting the brakes on something, or at least slowing it down and giving another set of eyes on it. Now, like I said, for the guy that's already got ARs, he's not going out and buying, a brand new one to go on his mass shooting spree.
No. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, and with these classes, because a lot of people don't know this is the thing. Banning weapons is going to hurt the black community. So what do? These classes is not going to be government regulated where we pay into it and then we give government more money. No, they're going to be free classes that is provided to the public, whether you own a gun or not, that you can actually go down there and they'll give you free classes. So say you're thinking about guns, you could take, because I believe knowledge is the biggest thing, you like any gun owner would like, oh, this gun, I don't know if I want this one. This one's kind of cool, but this and that, so if you do these free classes, people can attend this stuff, and kind of like, instead of being so scared and not knowing anything about guns, the government can send money to these gun stores or these classes to help the knowledge of guns. And
you're advocating for the old safety. NRA, by the way. Not the NRA before Wayne LaPierre. That's what you're advocating for, when they used to actually be like a marksmanship organization and, teaching people like the basics of firearms and, not just know on anything related to guns. Yeah. Because the NRA, I want to say, was basically co-opted by a more extreme version of their group. And I think it was the 80s, but don't hold me to it. But when that group came to power, is when they started taking the hard line stance on no related to everything on any type of regulation. Before that, they were a lot more, okay, like you and I are right now. There needs to be some reasonable restrictions to keep firearms out of the hands of people that, shouldn't have them, and there, at the same token, there needs to be access to Americans who enjoy shooting and know how to shoot and, respect the weapon and all that sort of stuff. But we've been running about 24 minutes, so I'm going to give you a chance to wrap up, and then I'm going to open up the lines for somebody else, if that's okay.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, yes, this idea does kind of infringe a lot of 2A. Listen, guys, I understand that. But I would rather take a little bit of infringement away from my own personal feelings than lose all of our guns and start something that is not good. I mean, look at the last time they tried to ban alcohol and tobacco from the United States. I mean, that was a bloodfest, and I don't think this is something that we need to go down the path. We should learn from history, not repeat it. And, maybe suck up a little couple feelings. Right. And like I said, with this idea that I do have, people who do pass all these things, when you go get a gun, you don't have to wait another day. They already kind of know who you are, they just kind of ping you, kind of run your stuff. And they're like, okay, this guy's still paying taxes from Amazon. This guy still has a job. Okay. Yeah. There's no
There's no trigger
restraining
event
orders.
here.
All right, cool. You know.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah, I
trigger
mean, this
event
guy's
here.
this guy's just he loves his guns, you know, this and that, you know, and you know, I think that, you know, this will help eliminate red flag laws, which are horrible. And if you ever want to talk about the universal background sometime, let me know. But
yeah, absolutely,
I just think
brother.
it's a longer waiting period.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to call in anytime.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad I was here. I'm gonna send you a message via Twitch. You can check it out anytime if you want. Yeah, thanks for having me on. And yeah, man.
Appreciate it, brother. I'm sure I'll see you in your next stream.
Oh, you know, okay.
Oh yeah, for sure, my man. All right, man. I'm gonna let you go. I appreciate you calling in, and thank you.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too.